anything happen for you guys over the weekend? Long weekend?
Did a wedding. Painted a porch.
Your porch? Your porch?
Our back, no, the neighbors. Kim and I went over and painted their back porch while they were out of town.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of This Thing Called Church. This is episode number 8, and today is September 8th. Pretty cool. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Good.
Good. It was, we had a long weekend. It was Labor Day weekend this past weekend. So anybody do anything exciting?
David did a wedding.
I did do a wedding. Providence Country Club on
Fancy.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was great weather and great couple, Greg and Jessica, and they're neat families and just happy for them. She's a teacher, he's an engineer, and they love each other. So there you go.
That's always good with a wedding.
Yeah, they love each other.
It was one of those weddings where I didn't get the sense that half of the room or all of the room was thinking this is a really dumb idea. I've done weddings like that where you kind of wonder and you sort of sense it in the crowd that everybody's not on board. And
was that your wedding?
Not this one. It was a celebration of their love for each other. It was great.
That was
my wedding.
Yeah, it was Kim's family was thinking that about you
That's
guys.
what Kim was thinking. The whole time, I'm sure this is a dumb idea. What am I doing?
You got a good dress out of it, though.
She didn't. She was 19. What do 19-year-olds know? Like, I was barely 21. We were really young and dumb. But we were in love. That's all that mattered. Right? That lasted till about Monday. When I left the toilet seat up and she squeezed the toothpaste in the middle of the tube. So, welcome to marriage bliss.
Okay, but back up a second though. As pastors Kevin, you've officiated weddings as well. Is that a thing? Like, do you guys really can tell like this is going to make it or this isn't going to make it? Like, is that a real thing? Like,
Oh, I don't think I would say I know, but it's been some awkward moments.
oh, wow. Now you've got me wondering, like, I wonder what our pastor thought. Like, was he like,
Yeah, you don't really know. I mean, because I've had some make it that I thought were rocky, and then I've had some not make it that I thought were a sure thing.
Oh, wow.
And I've only done one wedding where I had a lot of reservations. But the dad was very adamant that this was gonna happen, and he had paid for it and we were doing it, and I think it lasted about a year, which is sad.
Yeah. And
for everybody. I had a couple once who wanted to get, they came to talk to me about their wedding. They were not, they were loosely connected to the church. And I just asked them in the middle of the conversation one day, I said, why don't you guys want a church wedding? Like, you're not church people. You're wonderful people. I love you. I've enjoyed getting to know you, but they're like, you know what? We don't. Our parents do. We're going to the justice of the peace. And so they got up and they went out and they went that weekend and got married. And I later contacted them. I said, look, you can be a part of the church and come back. You didn't have to do your wedding in the church, but we'd love to have you. And they eventually kind of began a relationship with the church. So, but
were the parents mad at you?
Probably, but they weren't church members, so I didn't really have to deal with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there was, somebody was upset, but it was not authentic. Right. They were going to stand in front of people and take and pretend that they were something that they were not. And they felt very uncomfortable doing that. And I respect their integrity.
Yeah.
They had more integrity than some of the adults had.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
So
That's
they,
true.
yeah, I think they're still together. They were a great couple
Oh, wow.
about 15 or 20 years ago.
We got married back in Connecticut in the church I grew up in by the Reverend who was there throughout my whole childhood, and he was still there when we got married. So I was really, really happy to have been, and he also baptized, I think 2 out of 3 of our children too. Like we went back and had them baptized there. Because we weren't going to DUMC at that time, but so it is kind of neat to have a connection to the church.
Yeah.
Get married in that church. So, the couple that you just married again, what church were they from? Because you've been around, like you've had past churches. So where did they meet up with
Their connection is here
at
at DUMC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his is not. He was raised Roman Catholic, but the bride's connection was to the church here. Yeah. So
Awesome. Well, congratulations to the happy couple.
absolutely. Yep.
What coffee mug are you drinking out of today? What's your special mug of the day?
Can you see it?
It says, "Be careful or you will end up in my sermon."
Yeah. That's every pastor's kid's worst nightmare. My kids, when I was appointed here, literally had a conversation over chat. Which one of us is going to be the first to appear in a sermon?
Have you used them at all? You haven't really, no.
No. And now it's a matter of principle. I'm never going to mention them. They don't exist.
It's all right.
Yeah.
I admire that about you, actually.
They laid down the gauntlet and I took it up. I'm going to talk about the dog and the cat. Neither of whom are living anymore, but I'm going to talk about it.
Not your kids.
Not my kids.
Who gave you the mug?
It just ended up in my mailbox in the office one day.
That's awesome.
I don't think it had a card with it. I apologize to whomever gave it to me. If it did have a card with it, I've forgotten because I've kind of got them all in a drawer together and all the cards together. I may be forgetting, but thanks for it. It's a good one.
That's a great mug. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Your children are awesome as well.
They are. I love them.
Just not enough to mention them in a sermon.
Nope.
Yeah. And you can say that you love them because they've already left, for the most part, left the nest,
They have.
Kevin and I are still under house arrest with ours.
Yeah.
And can I just say, I had a moment this weekend because our middle child she has her learner's permit. And so I've been driving with our second one now because she's got to get all of her time in. She's got to get 60 hours. So each child needs 60 hours. That's 180 hours I will spend sitting in the car with my children, holding on for dear life. And as I was driving with my lovely daughter, I sat there and I had one of those moments where I think I've only been parenting for 17 years, but I think this period of them getting their driver's license is the most stressful time ever, even more so than potty training. Like getting their permit is definitely the least fun part of parenting. And I'm sure there's lots of other things to come, but it's really scary. It really is. It's really, and then they get mad when you tell them, brake, slow down. you hold on. Kevin, you wait, it's coming. It's not fun. I mean, you're excited for them, but I do think that has definitely been the hardest thing, is sitting in the car, holding on for your life while your child takes the wheel. And that you feel like you keep thinking you're back in Disney World with the driving, the ride where they pretend they're driving and it's got like the bumpers, that's what you feel like when you're riding along with your child. So anyway, definitely the hardest part of parenting, definitely harder than potty training. So,
well, accidents are a whole lot worse in cars than in potty training. They're easier to clean up when you're potty training.
That is true.
Sorry, I've been holding on to that joke for a long time. Sorry. When you first said it like 5 minutes ago.
I'm knocking on wood because we haven't had any accidents yet with this one. So get through. Okay, that was my rant about children right now. But the plus side is that she's really nice when she wants to go driving. So it's the only time she's really nice to me or nice to us was when she wants to go driving. So there's that.
You know you're recording this, right? She
doesn't watch.
Oh. But your youngest does.
Yeah, he'll probably
Okay.
he'll bribe me not to say something.
He's gonna rat you out.
I know. He just for a Chick-fil-A sandwich, he'll rat you out.
Well, today's topic is we are going to be talking about our upcoming book study, church-wide book study, and it's called The 5 Practices of Fruitful Living. It's written by Robert, I can't believe this, Schnase, right?
Yep.
Schnase. And it is something that actually we're kicking off this Sunday is your first sermon for this, right, David? And so we did a book study last January, February-ish, the apprenticeship with Jesus. And that really turned out to be a great thing for the church. And it really brought a lot of people together, a lot of groups. And we had a really good participation rate. The book was great. And so we decided to do another study. And David, do you want to talk a little bit about why you and Diane chose this book?
Sure. Well, we talked a lot about. Well, there are a lot of great books. I mean, obviously, we could have. There are any number of others we could have chosen, and we might still at some point in the future. I think I know the first one, the apprenticeship study went really well. This one seems to so far be going well. We have 17 small groups who are reading the book together. And then we'll see. This jury's still out on the sermons on the book, but we'll get to those starting Sunday. And so we may do this again, maybe in Lent. It's kind of a Lenten discipline together. There are different. Some churches follow the lectionary pretty strictly, and that's a list of prescribed readings that sort of guide us through the Christian year. Davidson has used it a fair amount. We still lean in. The past 2 Sundays, we've preached on the lectionary epistles from James. Diane and I have. But I think from time to time, series are helpful because they get us all thinking about kind of the same thing together. So we felt like, one, the book is accessible. It's relatively easy to read and understand. You don't have to be a biblical scholar or trained theologian to get something from it. It's kind of a nice size. It's not too long. And the content, I think, is something that folks do periodically think about, and that is, how do I live a more abundant, more fruitful, more fulfilling life? And particularly after the past 18 months, we thought it might be helpful for us as we think about life on, well, we're not on this side of COVID yet, but wherever we are, life wherever we currently are. How do we live it in a more abundant, fulfilling, meaningful, faithful way? And that's really what it's about. The book is about what are the practices that shape fruitful living? We know practices that shape healthy living, like certain diets and certain kinds of exercise and activity and sleep and all those things those are practices that make for a physically healthy life. And these are some of the practices that make for a spiritually healthy life. Bishop Schnase first wrote the book from a congregational perspective, and it was 5 Practices of Fruitful Congregations. And then after that came out and was very successful, he tweaked it a bit and made it, came at it from a more individual, personal perspective. And so that, hence the 5 practices of fruitful living.
Can you touch on just briefly what the 5 practices are without giving away what each chapter is about, but just touch, because it's, it's interesting when you look at the 5 and you go to any church website and you look at their tabs on their website, we all line up with these same 5 things in one way or another. Like when you look at
Right.
it's very, oh yeah, this is exactly, but he has a little more descriptive adjectives than what we would normally apply to them. So can you just share with us what the 5 practices are?
Sure. So, and the adjectives really matter. You're right about that, Karen. That's kind of his point is, the practices are important, but what makes them distinctly Christian or Christ-like are the adjectives that he applies to. So they are, and we'll kick this off on Sunday with radical hospitality. What does it mean that God has welcomed us and we welcome others, churches, and we're called to practice radical hospitality in our life. Passionate worship, not just sort of going through the motions worship, but spirit-filled, engaged worship. And that doesn't mean running up and down the aisles with our hands in the air. And that is a form of spirit-filled worship, but so is Fauré's Cantique de Jean Racine that the choir and the youth sang. Kevin's laughing. That's one of my favorites a couple weeks ago. That's also spirit-filled worship, passionate worship. Intentional faith development. There's an intentionality behind it. Just like with your exercise life, physical exercise. It's one thing to exercise. It's another thing to say, I'm intentional about my physical development. So intentional faith development, risk-taking, mission, and service.
That one sounds really scary.
Yeah, that one is a little scary. Yeah, Diane's preaching on that one on October 3rd. That's World Communion Sunday. And it can be to think about not just mission and service, but mission and service that requires us to take a risk in the name of Christ. And then finally, we wrap it up with extravagant generosity. In what ways are we called to be extravagantly generous, mirroring the extravagant generosity of God? And then we'll do one more. That's the last practice. But then we'll wrap the whole series up on October 17th with just kind of a general sermon around fruitful living and the fruitful offering of one's life in service to Christ and the church. So that's it. That's the series and the 5 practices.
Yeah. And like you said, too, I mean, the book it does look like you hate to say it's a quick read. That's why you should read it. But it looks like it's not going to take a lot of time to read. And if you read a chapter a week that ties in with your sermon, I mean, it's not bad at all. So you said he wrote one book previous to this. Has he written any others, or is that? I
think he's written others. I'm not 100% sure about what, but Kevin, are you aware?
Yeah, I think he's written other, but I don't know what the names are.
Yeah.
Out at SMU, they really liked him. They talked about him a lot. So I'm sure
I think so for a while he was, the denomination gets a little blurry for me outside of the Southeast and the Northeast, like where all the boundaries are of the jurisdictions and the conferences. But I think he was I believe he was Adam Hamilton's bishop for a while out in Kansas City, Missouri area, maybe. And then I think sometime he ended up maybe down in the Texas area as a bishop down there. So Oklahoma or something like that. So.
Is he still a bishop today? Is he still like a practicing bishop?
So he's still a bishop, but I don't know if he's retired or not.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
So kind
I
of
like that verb though. Practicing bishop.
Practicing bishop.
Yeah.
Once a bishop, always a bishop, right? I
guess. Yeah, in the Methodist Church. Yep. So for now.
It's fatal when you become a bishop. It's terminal.
You can't get rid of it. It's not curable.
Well, and I think what else, I mean, that's really exciting to hear that we have 17 small groups, because
Mhm.
that's really, because it's, anybody can read this book and also follow along with your sermons. But I think to meet with a small group and to dig deeper into the study, and to have a group discussion about, well, any book or any book study that we do, I think you really get so much more out of it. And I know if you haven't signed up for a book study yet, there's still plenty of time
Mhm.
to get you into a group. And I think reach out to Sherry Carpenter, and she'll plug you in somewhere. But I do think it does, it goes a little bit deeper into it, and it's
Yeah.
fulfilling in a sense. So
Well, it's Christian conferencing, which Wesley believed was one of the means of grace. Those kinds of Christian conversations that we engage in that push us and challenge us to think differently, see the world differently. The book will help do that and will guide your conversation, but there's nothing like doing it with a group of faithful friends who are on the journey with you.
well, and it's neat too when you do a book study, any book study, and you'll read one thing, but everybody has different experiences on how that paragraph or that passage relates to them. And so to hear different, experiences is also kind of eye-opening. You're not just
Mhm.
listening to doing your own, it's kind of, again, sharing with others. And so that's always beneficial as well.
If folks want to read ahead, well, you get the book at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and anywhere you can order. Be sure you buy Fruitful Living, not 5 Practices of Fruitful Congregations. You
Yeah,
can read Fruitful Congregations, but it's not the book we're doing.
right.
Fruitful Living. Sunday, as we kick off hospitality, I'm going to take a look at Luke 15 and the parable. We call it the parable of the Prodigal Son. It's not a great title for it, but Luke 15:11 through 32 is the text for Sunday. So if you have some time and want to take out your Bible and reflect on that this week, spend a little time with that text. We'll use it to think about radical hospitality.
So I feel like Oprah right now doing like her Oprah book club, but on the back of the book, so Adam Hamilton did write a review, but this other person, Reuben Jobs,
Job,
or Joe, is it Job?
Job,
like
the biblical character.
Okay. He wrote, if you want to become serious about living a faithful and fruitful life, this is the book for you. In 5 Practices of Fruitful Living, Robert Schnase takes us to the practice field of daily life and guides us in the reception, understanding, and investing of God's grace in daily living. And I think, again, and we've talked about this in past episodes and stuff, and the key words there for me are daily living, because it's really, really, really hard to take your Sunday sermon or going to church for an hour on Sunday and then applying it when you leave the building. And that's where I struggle personally. Maybe others don't have this struggle, but I just find that once I'm in my normal life and I'm with my kids or my family and I'm dealing with life and crisis and busyness, that you forget all of the practices. It's hard to, but like you said, some of this intentional that we'll learn in the book will help us do this daily and be part of our lives, and not just when we go to church on Sunday.
So Kevin, what are the things that piano players do that are like the repetitive, very elementary, what do they call those?
Scales and rudimentary
Yeah,
stuff.
rudiments.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
we do a lot of that. I loved it. I read the introduction last night, and he was talking about if you go to Little League games and you watch them warming up, they're throwing the ball and they're practice, hitting. And
right.
But then if you go to the major league game, they're doing the same thing. And that's still something that, as a musician, we have to do that. And I really loved I hadn't read this. I don't know why I never saw this before. Karen, talking about when you read something, the Wesley's conversion when he goes to the meeting at Aldersgate Street and has his heart strangely warmed. I'd never seen this before. He said, and I didn't want to go. And I thought, here's this man that's in so many stained glass windows that started this really great movement, had to go to a meeting he didn't want to go to. And that's like me every day, going to meetings I don't want to go to. But he went and had something transformational happen. And yeah, it's not practicing scales is not the fun thing. That's not why I got to into ministry and music ministry specifically, is not to practice scales.
But I think about you, and their reason. I mean, some of us are not musicians, not because we don't love music, but in part we haven't practiced the scales. Because you can't. So in a similar kind of way, I'm making some assumptions here, and you can correct me because I'm obviously not a musician, but you can't think about your hands every finger every time, right? That you can't process that. You'd never be able to play anything if you have to think, well, my pinky goes here, my middle finger goes there, my ring finger goes here, and then you do the other hand, and then my feet are, and you're thinking. Yeah. You can't make those decisions. It has to be some muscle memory that your body, it has been practiced so much that your body just knows how to live into it and live it out. And in a similar way, I think the Christian life has sometimes been reduced to decision making. I need to make a decision about this thing or that thing or the next thing. And I need to make the right decisions. And what would Jesus do? And really what Bishop Schnase would hope that we would see is that it's in practicing these practices over and over and over again, even when we don't want to go, that it becomes muscle memory, and it's character forming, and it's developing a self that is Christ-like, so that in every moment I don't have to think about what would Jesus do, because it's just sort of in my body. I know what Jesus would do because I've been practicing it so well. So, thank God for people like Kevin who practice their scales and rhythms and all that other stuff.
Well, I feel that way when I, look at people that go running. I hate running. My joke is, if you see me running, you better run too. But I will look on Facebook and people are like putting up where they ran today, and I'm like, wow. That looks hard. And I wonder like what it would look like if our Facebook feeds had people saying, this is what I read in the Bible today, or this is what I just don't see people doing that, mapping out their Bible too much. Right. But that's the similar kind of discipline, right? You got to say, I want to run a 5K in 3 months. So I'm going to run this amount every day till I can get to that point. I'm glad people run. I agree with you on that one too, David. People that run, they're really good. And I don't send me a hate mail, please.
Well, when your practice leads to, I say this probably too much, but your practice, our choirs practicing, our bell choirs, all of those folks who practice and then play or sing, they are able to create something beautiful out of the practice, out of the discipline. And I think Bishop Schnase would say, you know what, you can create a pretty beautiful life if you practice these things well. Before you know it, you'll actually start to look like Jesus. You'll look like God wants you to, and your life will be reflective of God's beauty and goodness, but not by accident. It is a grace inspired and grace enabled effort for sure. God's grace is primary, but we do have to respond. We can't just sit on the sofa and say, well, maybe I'll run a marathon tomorrow. Well, probably not.
Baby steps. They have the couch to 5K. We need the Bible to something like a what?
David, you and we can write that book. Couch.
There you
Bible
go.
Couch to 5K.
There you go. We're on it. Write it and retire.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So again, if you go out, this is what the book looks like. If you haven't gotten it yet, go get one, order it online. sign up for a small group and read the first chapter, and then come to church on Sunday or watch online. We're still live streaming, and follow along with the sermons for the next 8 weeks or so. So anything else going on with you guys that you need to make any announcements or?
I would say if you're waiting to get those tickets reserved for the Ortega thing on October 1st, now's the time, because we're about 150 tickets are left. So if you're like me and you want to see what else is going to go on before you make it, you can always change your reservation. I'd hate to turn really nice people away from the door, but we are limiting it for COVID reasons.
Awesome. All right. Well, it was great chatting with you guys again. Next time that we get together, we'll look a little bit differently. We'll just leave, we'll leave it like that as a teaser for the next episode, which is coming up next 2 weeks. Hopefully, knock on wood, everything will go well and it will look differently. So with that, you guys take care. Everybody else have a great day, and we'll be back soon. Bye. I do like the comfort of my house. I mean, of my box, my square. You know, like the Hollywood squares. I feel very protected in my little square. My happy square. That would have been weird.
Oh, is she to your right?
Yeah, you're on my bottom.
No, you're down there.
She's on my left.
This is me and Kevin.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so funny. See, I've got you one. I got Kevin here and David there.
That's cool, because
you can move people around. You can drag their boxes. I'm pretty sure you can. Yeah. I just moved Kevin on the bottom.
Thank you.
Now,
I'm a musician. I feel that way. Thank you.